The cantina was full of noise. Aliens of all shapes and sizes sat at tables, drinking strange liquids and talking in languages that sounded like music or thunder. The air smelled like smoke and sweat. Lights flickered above, casting shadows on the dirty walls. This was Nexus Prime, a space station where laws meant nothing and only the strong survived. In the far corner, away from the crowd, sat a human. His name was Kong Doyan. He was 29 years old, but his eyes looked much older. Scars marked his face and hands like a map of battles fought and won. He wore a simple black jacket over worn armor. A glass of dark liquid sat in front of him, untouched. He just stared at it, thinking about nothing and everything. The moment he had walked in, the cantina had grown quiet. Conversations stopped. Eyes turned. Whispers spread from table to table like fire through dry grass. That's him. The human, the unbroken. I heard he killed 50 Corvani soldiers with his bare hands. No, it was 100. And he didn't even get hurt. Humans are monsters, Earthworlders. Their planet tried to kill them every day, and they just got stronger. Doyan heard every word. He didn't react. He was used to it. Everywhere he went in this galaxy, the reaction was the same. Fear, respect, hatred, sometimes all three at once. Humans had only been in space for 60 years. When they first met alien life, the galaxy thought they would be easy to control. Earth was a small planet, far from the center of civilization. Humans were weak compared to many species. They couldn't run as fast as the Corvani. They couldn't see in the dark like the Velans. They didn't have natural armor like the Throck. But then the war came. The Dominion, powerful empire, decided to conquer Earth. They sent their fleets. They expected surrender within days. Instead, they got something else entirely. Humans fought back. When their weapons ran out, they used rocks. When their ships were destroyed, they built new ones from the wreckage. When their soldiers died, more took their place. They didn't surrender. They didn't negotiate. They just kept coming, wave after wave, year after year. The Dominion had never seen anything like it. In their history, every species eventually broke. Every civilization had a limit, but humans seemed to have none. They were like a virus that couldn't be killed, a fire that couldn't be put out. After 15 years, the Dominion retreated. They had lost too much. The cost was too high, and the galaxy learned a valuable lesson that day. Never fight a human, because humans don't know how to stop. Now, 20 years later, humans were scattered across the stars. Some were traitors. Some were scientists. But many, like Doyan, were mercenaries. Soldiers for hire. The galaxy feared them, but it also needed them. When you wanted something protected, you hired a human. When you wanted someone dead, you hired a human. Doyan had been one of the best for 10 years. They called him the Unbroken because no one had ever defeated him. Not in battle, not in single combat. Not ever. He had fought aliens twice his size. He had survived wounds that should have killed him. And he always completed his contracts. But tonight, he just wanted to drink in peace. That was not going to happen. The door of the cantina opened. 6 Corvani mercenaries walked in. They were big, with green skin and 4 arms each. Muscles bulged under their leather armor. They carried weapons openly, showing them off like prizes. Their leader, the biggest one, had 3 scars across his face. He looked around the room until his 4 eyes found Doyan. An ugly smile spread across his face. "Well, well," he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Is that a human I see? The famous Unbroken?" The cantina went completely silent. Every alien stopped what they were doing and watched. Doyan didn't look up. He just lifted his glass and took a slow sip. The Corvani leader walked closer, his 5 friends following behind. They surrounded Doyan's table, blocking any escape. Not that he was planning to escape. "You don't look so scary to me," the leader said. "You look tired, old, weak." Still, Doyan said nothing. "I think the stories about humans are lies," the Corvani continued. "I think you're all soft." I think I could break you with one hand." Doyan finally looked up. His eyes were calm, empty, like a frozen lake. "You have 3 seconds to walk away," he said quietly. The Corvani laughed. All 6 of them laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. 3 seconds? Or what, human? Doyen set down his glass carefully. 1. The leader reached for his weapon. "You think you scare me?" 2. "I'm going to enjoy this." 3. What happened next took less than 10 seconds. Doyan moved like water, like shadow, like death itself. He grabbed the leader's arm and twisted. Bones cracked. The Corvani screamed. Before the others could react, Doyan was already among them. He struck throats, broke knees, and dislocated shoulders. His movements were precise and efficient. No wasted energy. No unnecessary violence. Just enough to end the threat. When it was over, 6 Corvani lay on the floor, groaning in pain. None of them were dead. Doyan never killed unless he had to. But none of them would fight again for a long time. Doyan sat back down and picked up his glass. He hadn't spilled a single drop. The cantina remained silent. Then, slowly, conversation started again. Aliens looked away, pretending they hadn't seen anything. The bartender called for someone to drag the bodies out. Business as usual on Nexus Prime. The door opened again. This time, 2 humans walked in. The first was a man about Doyan's age, with a friendly face and quick eyes. His name was Beek Suho, and he had been Doyan's friend and second die in command for 8 years. He looked at the groaning Corvani on the floor and smiled. "Started without me, I see," he said, sitting down across from Doyan. The second human was a woman with short black hair and a scar above her left eye. Yoon Hannah was the best engineer and medic Doyun had ever known. She was also the only person who could make him listen to reason. "We have a job," Hannah said, getting straight to business. She placed a small device on the table. Numbers glowed on its surface. Very big numbers. Doyan raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of money." "The client wants us to escort someone through Velen's space," Suho explained. "Anonymous VIP. High risk. High reward." "Velen's space is dangerous," Doyan said. "They don't like humans. They don't like anyone," Hannah replied. "But they're paying enough to retire on. All 3 of us." Doyan thought about it. Velen's space was controlled by the Velen Empire, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They were proud, powerful, and secretive. They also had a history of making humans disappear. But the money was good. And Doyan was getting tired of places like this cantina. "Fine," he said. "Let's go meet our client." They left the cantina and walked through the crowded corridors of Nexus Prime until they reached the docking bay. Their ship, the Last Dawn, waited for them. It was old but reliable, fast when it needed to be. And armed with enough weapons to fight off small fleets, they boarded and walked to the cargo bay. Someone was already there, standing in the shadows, wearing a hooded cloak that hid their face. Doyan stopped. His hand moved to his weapon. "Show yourself," he commanded. The figure hesitated, then slowly lowered the hood. Silver skin glowed softly in the dim light. Violet eyes, large and beautiful, stared back at him. Pointed ears, delicate features. There was no mistake. This was a Velen, and not just any Velen. The jewelry she wore, the mark on her forehead, the way she held herself with absolute confidence despite being alone among humans. This was royalty, Suho swore under his breath. Hannah's eyes went wide. Doyan just stared, his face showing nothing. "My name is Lyris," the woman said. Her voice was like music. "Third daughter of Emperor Thalrose of the Velen Empire. And I need your help, Kong Doyan. You're the only one in this galaxy who can save me." The cargo bay was silent except for the hum of the ship. Doyan had taken many strange contracts in his life, but this one, he knew, was going to be different. He just didn't know how much. The Last Dawn flew through the darkness of space. Stars passed by like tiny lights in an endless sea. Inside the ship, the air was thick with tension. Do-Yan sat in the pilot's chair, his arms crossed over his chest. Behind him stood Princess Lyris, still wearing her dark cloak. Suho leaned against the wall, watching with curious eyes. Hannah was checking the ship's systems, but she kept glancing back at their royal guest. "Start talking," Do-Yan said. His voice was flat and cold. "Why is a Velen princess hiding on my ship?" Lyris lifted her chin. She was used to giving orders, not receiving them. But she was also smart enough to know she needed this human's help. "I am running away," she said simply. "From what?" "From a marriage I did not choose." Suho let out a low whistle. "Royal family drama. My favorite." Lyris ignored him. She kept her violet eyes fixed on Do-Yoon. "My father, Emperor Thalros, has arranged for me to marry Lord Maver. He is a powerful noble with many ships and soldiers. The marriage would strengthen our empire." "Sounds like good politics," Do-Yan said. "Lord Mavar is a monster." Lyris's voice turned sharp. "He is cruel. He treats servants like animals. He has killed 3 wives already, and no one speaks of how they died. If I marry him, I will become his property. And I would rather die than let that happen." Cargo Bay fell silent. Do-Yan studied her face. He had learned to read people over years of dangerous work. Liars had tells. Small movements. Nervous eyes. But this princess showed none of that. She was telling the truth. "Sad," Do-Yan said. "But it's not my problem. I was hired to transport a VIP through Velen space. That's what I'll do. After that, you're on your own." Lyris shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. Getting through Velen space is only the beginning. Lord Maver will never stop hunting me. Unless I find a way to break the engagement legally." "How?" Hannah asked, now fully interested. Lyris took a deep breath. This was the part she had been afraid to explain. "There is an ancient law in my culture," she said. "It is called the right of claim. Long ago, Velen women had no power. They were given to men like prizes. But a queen named Vora fought against this. She created the right as a way for women to choose their own path." "What does it do?" Suho asked. "If a woman is being forced into marriage, she can invoke the right. She declares a warrior as her champion, her acclaimed. That warrior becomes bound to her. He must protect her. And any man who wants to marry her must first defeat the champion in single combat."
Ow.
Do-Yan's eyes narrowed. He could see where this was going. "You want to claim me?" he said. Lyris nodded. "Lord Mavor is a skilled fighter. He has killed many opponents in duels, but he has never faced a human. No one in the Empire has. If I claim you as my champion, he will have to fight you. And if you defeat him, the engagement is broken forever. If I lose, then you die, and I become his wife." Do-Yan stood up. He walked toward Lyris until they were face to face. She was tall for a Velen, but he was still taller. He looked down at her with eyes like stone. "I don't fight for crowns," he said. "I don't care about your empire or your politics. I'm a mercenary. I do jobs for money. That's all." "I will pay you," Lyris said quickly. "More than you've ever been paid. Enough to buy your own planet if you want." "I don't want a planet. Then what do you want?" Do-Yan was quiet for a moment. The truth was, he didn't know. He had been fighting for so long that he had forgotten what peace felt like. He had no home, no family, no purpose beyond the next contract. But that wasn't something he would share with a princess he had just met. "I want to finish this job and move on," he said. "That's all." Lyris opened her mouth to argue, but a loud alarm cut her off. Red lights flashed across the ship. Hannah rushed to the control panel, her fingers flying over the buttons. "We have company," she said grimly. 6 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. "They're blocking our path," Avar, Lyris whispered. Her face went pale. "He found me how?" Suho demanded. "We covered our tracks. He has spies everywhere. He must have been tracking me since I left." Do-Yan pushed past her and took the pilot's seat. His hands moved with practiced speed, bringing up tactical displays. 6 warships surrounded them. They were small, but fast, built for hunting. The Last Dawn was tough, but not tough enough to fight 6 at once. "They're hailing us," Hannah said. Put it through. Face appeared on the screen. It was a Velen male with sharp features and cruel eyes. Gold decorated his armor. A thin smile curved his lips. "Princess Lyris," he said. His voice was smooth like oil. "Did you really think you could run from me? I own half the Empire. There is nowhere you can hide." Lyris stepped forward. Her fear had been replaced by anger. "Lord Maver, I am not your property yet, and I never will be." Maver laughed. "Such spirit, I look forward to breaking it." His eyes moved to Doyon. "And who is this? A human? You hired a human as your bodyguard?" He laughed again. "This is insulting. These animals should be put down, not employed." Doyon said nothing. He just stared at Maver with empty eyes. "Surrender now," Maver continued. "Come back with me peacefully, and I might let your pet human live." "No," Lyris said. "No, you have no choice. My ships will tear yours apart in minutes." Doyon finally spoke. "Then stop talking and do it." Maver's smile faltered. He was not used to being challenged. "You talk too much," Doyon said. "Either attack or leave. I have better things to do than listen to you." The screen went dark. A moment later, the 6 ships began to move. They were attacking.
"Hold on,"
Doyon shouted. The last dawn came alive under his hands. He threw the ship into a sharp turn, dodging the first wave of laser fire. Explosions lit up the darkness around them. The ship shook as a blast hit their shields. Shields at 80%. Hannah called out, "Suho, get on the guns." Suho ran to the weapon controls. He started firing back, and one of the enemy ships exploded in a ball of fire. But 5 more remained. "They're sending boarding pods," Hannah warned. Before anyone could react, a loud crash echoed through the ship. The enemy had breached the hull. Armored soldiers poured in through the hole, weapons ready. Doyon moved without thinking. He grabbed his pistol and fired twice. 2 soldiers fell. Then he was among them, fighting hand to hand. He broke bones. He dodged blades. He moved like a machine built for war. Suho joined him, fighting back to back. Hannah protected Lyris with a smaller weapon, her shots precise and deadly. More soldiers came. Then more. The corridor filled with bodies and blood. Through it all, Doyon never stopped. He took wounds, but ignored them. A blade cut his arm. He kept fighting. A blast hit his shoulder. He kept fighting. His body screamed for rest, but he refused to listen. This was what made humans terrifying. Not strength. Not speed. But the simple refusal to stop. Finally, the last soldier fell. The boarding pods retreated. The remaining ships pulled back, their attack broken. Doyon stood in the middle of the carnage, breathing hard. Blood dripped from his wounds. Around him lay dozens of enemies he had defeated. Lyris stared at him. She had seen warriors before. She had seen champions and killers, but she had never seen anything like this. Never seen someone fight with such relentless, unstoppable force. She made her decision. "Ship's communication systems," she said to Hannah. "Broadcast to all frequencies. Make sure Mavor hears this." "What are you doing?" Doyon asked. Lyris walked toward him. Her violet eyes burned with determination. She reached out and took his bloodied hand in both of hers. "By the ancient right of claim," she announced, her voice carrying through the broadcast. "I, Princess Lyris, 3rd daughter of Emperor Thalros, declare this warrior as my chosen. I claim Kang Doyon of Earth. He is mine, and I am his, until the right is fulfilled." Maver's voice screamed through the speakers. "You dare bind yourself to that creature? Then I will break him, and you will watch." Lyris smiled coldly. "Try." The communication cut off. The remaining enemy ships jumped to hyperspace. Fleeing to report what had happened, Doyon pulled his hand away from Lyris. His face was hard with anger. "He had no right to do that," he said. "Had every right. And now you have no choice. The right is binding. If you abandon me before it's resolved, every Velen in the galaxy will hunt you. You'll never know peace again. I could kill you right now." "You could," she agreed. "But you won't." Because despite what you want me to believe, you're not a monster, Kong Do-yeon. You're a soldier who has lost his war, and I just gave you a new one to fight." They stared at each other. The air between them crackled with tension. Finally, Do-yeon let out a long breath. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Maybe both," Lyris said. "But now we're in this together, partners." Do-yeon turned away and walked back to the pilot's seat. "We're not partners. You're my client. And clients don't give me orders? Then what do you call what just happened?" He didn't answer. But as he set their course for Velen's space, for the empire that hated his kind, he knew one thing for certain. His life had just gotten much more complicated. The planet. Thesa Prime was beautiful in a cold way. Silver oceans stretched beneath purple skies. Cities of white stone rose like crystals from the ground. Everything was clean, perfect, and ancient. The Velen Empire had stood for 10,000 years, and it showed in every building, every street, every face. The last dawn landed in the Imperial docking bay. As the door opened, Do-yeon saw rows of Velen soldiers waiting for them. Their armor shined in the pale sunlight. Their weapons were pointed at the ship. "Warm welcome," Suho muttered. Lyris walked forward first. The soldiers immediately lowered their weapons and knelt. She was still their princess after all. But when Do-yeon stepped out behind her, they tensed again. Their eyes filled with disgust and fear. "The human stays with me," Lyris commanded. "He is my claimed champion under the right. Any harm to him is harm to me." The soldiers didn't like it, but they obeyed. They formed a protective circle around the group and led them into the palace, the Imperial Palace. It's the most impressive building Do-yeon had ever seen. Walls of white marble stretched high into the sky. Gardens of strange flowers surrounded flowing pools of silver water. Servants moved silently through the halls, their heads bowed, and everywhere there were eyes watching him. Velen nobles filled the corridors. They wore robes of expensive fabric, decorated with jewels. They looked at Do-yeon like he was a disease that had entered their home. Some whispered behind their hands. Others stared openly with hatred. "Death Worlder," someone hissed. "Animal," said another. Do-yeon ignored them all. He had faced worse than whispers. Lyris led them to her private chambers. The rooms were large and comfortable, filled with soft furniture and beautiful art. Windows looked out over the silver ocean. It should have felt peaceful, but Do-yeon could feel danger everywhere. "We'll be safe here for now," Lyris said. "My father knows about the right. He hasn't stopped it, which means he's curious. He wants to see what happens." "Your father doesn't care if Mavor kills me?" Do-yeon asked. "My father doesn't care about anything except power. If you win, he gets a human champion connected to his family. That could be useful. If you lose, he gets rid of a troublesome daughter and makes Mavor happy. Either way, he wins." "Lovely family," Hannah said sarcastically. "Royal families are not about love," Lyris replied. "They're about survival." Knock came at the door. A servant entered and announced that Lord Mavor had arrived at the palace. He was formally challenging Do-yeon under the right of claim. Do-yeon stood. "Good, let's finish this now." "Wait," Lyris grabbed his arm. "The right gives the challenged champion the right to choose when and where the combat happens. You have 30 rotations. That's about 30 Earth days. Why would I wait? Because you're wounded. Because you don't know how Velens fight. Because Mavor has been training for combat his entire life, and you just got out of a battle?" She looked at his bandaged arm, his bruised shoulder. "You're strong, Do-yeon. Stronger than anyone I've ever seen. But even you need time to prepare." Do-yeon wanted to argue. He was impatient. He wanted to end this contract and move on. But Lyris was right. Walking into a death match while wounded was stupid, and he wasn't stupid. "Fine," he said. 30 days. The days that followed were strange. Do-yeon had never lived in a palace before. He had never worn fine clothes or eaten expensive food, and he had certainly never been the center of attention for an entire empire. Every day, nobles came to look at him. Some challenged him to small competitions, hoping to measure his skills. He defeated them all easily. Some tried to bribe him to lose the fight against Maver. He threw their money back in their faces. Some sent assassins in the night. He killed them quietly and never mentioned it to anyone. Through it all, Lyris stayed by his side. She taught him about Velen culture, their history, their fighting styles. She explained how Maver moved, what weapons he preferred, what weaknesses he had. "He is arrogant," she said one evening. They were sitting in the garden, watching the sun set over the silver ocean. "He believes he cannot lose. That makes him careless. Arrogance can also make someone dangerous," Doyen replied. "Careless fighters take risks. Sometimes those risks pay off." Lyris looked at him. In the fading light, her silver skin glowed softly. "You fought many battles. Have you ever lost?" "Everyone loses sometimes. But I've never lost a fight to the death." "How? How do humans do it?" "You're not the strongest species. Not the fastest. Your senses are limited. Your lifespans are short. Yet the entire galaxy fears you. Why?" Doyen was quiet for a long moment. He watched the waves roll beneath him, endless and patient. On Earth, he finally said, "Everything tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, disease, other humans. We should have died 1,000 times. But we didn't. Because we learned one thing that other species never had to learn." "What?" "How to suffer. How to take pain and keep going. How to lose everything and still wake up the next day, ready to fight again. Other species evolved to be perfect. Humans evolved to be stubborn. We don't give up because giving up was never an option." Lyris studied his face. There was sadness there, hidden deep beneath the stone expression. Sadness and loneliness that she recognized in herself. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked softly. "I haven't been back in 15 years. I don't know what there is to miss anymore." "Then what do you fight for? If not home, if not family, what keeps you going?" Doyen didn't answer. He didn't know the answer. The next morning, Hannah came to him with news. She had been investigating Maver's movements, using her technical skills to spy on his communications. What she found was disturbing. "He's planning to cheat," she said. "I intercepted messages between Maver and a scientist. They're developing a neural toxin specifically designed to kill humans. He's going to poison you before the fight." "How?" Doyen asked. "I don't know yet. Food, drink, air supply? Could be anything." Suho cracked his knuckles. "Then we find the scientist and destroy the toxin." "It's not that simple," Hannah replied. "The scientist is working in Maver's personal fortress. Heavy security. We can't get in without starting a war." Doyen thought about it. "Then we don't stop the poison. We stop the delivery." They spent the next 2 weeks being careful. Dojan only ate food that Hannah prepared herself. He only drank water from sealed containers. He never went anywhere alone. Suho watched his back at all times. But the enemy was patient too. On the 25th night, assassins slipped through their defenses. He was a small Velen, trained in shadow arts, invisible to normal eyes. He carried a needle filled with the neural toxin. One scratch would be enough. Doyen woke from a light sleep as the assassin entered his room. Instinct saved his life. He rolled out of bed as the needle stabbed into his pillow. He grabbed the assassin's arm and twisted. The needle flew away. They fought in the darkness. The assassin was fast, faster than any enemy Doyen had faced. But Doyen was relentless. Every time the assassin escaped his grip, Doyen caught him again. Every time the assassin tried to flee, Doyen blocked the way. Finally, Doyen's hands found the assassin's throat. He squeezed until the struggling stopped. When the lights came on, Suho and Hannah found Doyen standing over the body. But something was wrong. Doyen was swaying on his feet. Blood dripped from a small cut on his forearm. "The needle," he said. His voice was weak. "He got me." Hannah rushed to examine the wound. Her face went pale. "The toxin. It's in your system." Doyen's vision blurred. His legs gave out. Suho caught him before he hit the floor. "Can you cure him?" Suho demanded. I don't know. I need to analyze the toxin. Make an antidote. It will take time." "How much time?" "Days? maybe a week. But they didn't have a week. The next morning, a message arrived from Lord Maver. He had heard about the assassination attempt. He was pretending to be shocked and angry, and he was declaring that he would wait no longer. The combat would happen tomorrow. Lyris stood at Do-yun's bedside. He was lying there, unconscious, fighting the poison in his blood. His face was covered in sweat. His breathing was shallow. "You can't fight like this," she whispered. "You'll die." But even in his fevered state, Do-yun's hand grabbed hers. His eyes opened, unfocused but determined. "I've fought worse," he said, "and I don't lose." Lyris felt tears building in her eyes. She had used this man. She had trapped him with her right. She had brought him into her world and made him her weapon. But somewhere along the way, he had become something more. Not just a champion. Not just a tool. She didn't have a word for what he was. But she knew that she couldn't let him die. "Then rest," she said, squeezing his hand. "Rest now. And tomorrow show them why the galaxy fears humanity." Do-yun closed his eyes. Tomorrow would come soon enough. And when it did, he would be ready. The arena of Ascension was ancient. Its stone walls had witnessed thousands of duels over 10,000 years. Champions had lived and died on its sand. Blood had soaked so deep into the ground that the floor was stained dark red dot today. Millions of Velons filled the seats. They came from every corner of the Empire to watch history being made. For the first time ever, a human would fight in the sacred arena. Word had spread across the galaxy. Even aliens from other empires watched through. BROADCAST signals. Everyone wanted to see if the legends about humans were true. Lord Mavar entered first. He wore golden armor that shined in the twin suns. His weapon was a curved blade with energy running through its edge. He raised his arms, and the crowd cheered for him. He was noble, powerful, and Velen. He was one of them. Then the other gate opened. Kong Do-yun walked out slowly. He wore simple black armor, nothing fancy. His weapon was a straight sword made of plain steel. No energy, no decorations. Just metal forged on earth. He looked tired. Dark circles sat under his eyes. His movements were stiff. The poison was still in his blood, weakening him. The crowd fell silent, then began to laugh and mock. This was the famous human? This was the Unbroken. He looked like he could barely stand. Mavor smiled widely. "So this is the great human warrior. You look sick, human. Perhaps you should surrender now. I might give you a quick death." Do-yun said nothing. He just raised his sword. High above the arena, in the royal box, Princess Lyris watched with her heart pounding. Her father, Emperor Thalrose, sat beside her. His face showed nothing. He was simply watching, judging, calculating. "Your champion looks weak," Thalrose said. "Perhaps you chose poorly, daughter," perhaps Lyris replied. But inside she was praying to every god she knew. The horn sounded. The duel began. Maver attacked first. He was fast, incredibly fast. His blade was a blur of golden light as he swung at Do-yun's head. Do-yun blocked, but the force pushed him back. Mavar struck again and again, each blow harder than the last. The crowd cheered. Mavar was winning easily. Do-yun couldn't keep up. The poison had stolen his speed and strength. Every movement felt like pushing through water. His arms burned. His lungs screamed for air. He blocked what he could and dodged what he couldn't, but he was taking hits. Blood began to flow from cuts on his arms and chest. "Is this all you have?" Maver laughed, landing another strike. "The galaxy fears this? You're nothing but a sick animal." He kicked Do-yun in the chest. Do-yun flew backward and crashed into the sand. The crowd erupted in cheers. Maver raised his sword for the killing blow, but Do-yun rolled away. Slowly, painfully, he got back to his feet. The crowd went quiet. Maver attacked again. He slashed across Do-yun's ribs. Blood sprayed. Do-yun stumbled, but didn't fall. Another attack. Another wound. Do-yun's leg buckled. He fell to one knee. Maver stood over him triumphantly. "Stay down, human," Stay down and die with whatever dignity you have left." For a moment, everything was still. Then Doyen lifted his head. His eyes met Maver's. Despite the blood, despite the pain, despite everything, there was no defeat in those eyes. Only iron. Only fire. Only something that couldn't be broken. He rose to his feet again. The crowd's cheers died. Whispers replaced them. Why won't he stay down? What's wrong with him? Mava's smile faded. He attacked with renewed fury. He cut Doyen's arm. Doyen stood. He stabbed Doyen's shoulder. Doyen stood. He knocked Doyen to the ground 3 more times. 3 more times Doyen rose. Blood covered the human's body. His armor was torn. His breath came in ragged gasps. Any normal warrior would have died 5 times by now. But Doyen was not a normal warrior. In the stands, Suho watched with tears in his eyes. He remembered the war. He remembered Earth. He remembered what they had taught him in training. Pain is temporary, the instructors used to say. Pain is just information. You can ignore information. You can keep going, even when your body says stop. That's what makes us human. On the arena floor, Doyen's mind went to the same place. He remembered his first battle. He remembered friends who had died. He remembered why he had become a soldier in the first place. Not for money. Not for glory. But because someone had to stand between darkness and light. Someone had to be the wall that wouldn't break. He rose again. This time something changed. The crowd saw it. Maver felt it. The air itself seemed to grow heavy. Doyen straightened. His wounds still bled. His body still shook. But his eyes were different now. Empty of pain. Empty of doubt. Filled only with purpose, he attacked. His first strike was slow, and Maver blocked it easily. But the second was faster. The third was faster still. Somehow, impossibly, the dying human was getting stronger. Mavar backed away, confused. "What are you doing? You should be dead." Doyen didn't answer. He just kept coming. Each step was heavy. Each breath was painful. But he moved forward, always forward, like a tide that couldn't be stopped. They clashed in the center of the arena. Swords met with explosions of sparks. Maver was still faster, still stronger, still more skilled. But now, there was fear in his eyes. Because every time he landed a blow, Doyen took it and kept fighting. Every time he pushed Doyen back, Doyen came forward again. The crowd had fallen completely silent. They had never seen anything like this. No Velen warrior could take this much punishment. No alien species could endure this kind of pain and keep fighting. But humans could. Humans were built for this. Millions of years of evolution had created the perfect endurance predator. A creature that didn't need to be the strongest or fastest, because it simply never stopped. Maver grew desperate. His strikes became wild, careless. He was trying to end the fight quickly because he knew, deep down, that he couldn't outlast this monster. But Doyen had already outlasted him in a final exchange. Maver swung his blade at Doyen's head with all his strength. Instead of dodging, Doyen reached out and caught the blade with his bare hand. Energy burned through his palm. Blood poured down his arm. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. He didn't let go. Maver's eyes went wide with shock. He tried to pull his weapon back, but Doyen's grip was like iron. With his other hand, Doyen drove his sword forward. It pierced through Maver's golden armor and into his stomach. Maver gasped. His weapon fell from his hands. He stumbled backward, clutching the wound. Doyen advanced. Maver retreated. The mighty lord, the noble warrior, the man who had never known defeat, was running from a half-dead human. Finally, Maver fell to his knees. "Yield," he screamed. His voice echoed through the silent arena. "I yield. The fight is over." "I yield." Doyen stood over him. His sword was raised. Every part of him wanted to bring it down. To end this man who had tried to poison him, who had hunted Lyris like an animal, who had caused so much suffering. But he remembered what he had told Lyris in the garden. Humans had learned to suffer. They had also learned something else. When to stop? Doyan lowered his sword. The fight is over, he said. His voice was barely a whisper, but in the silence, everyone heard it. The arena exploded. Not with cheers for Maver, not with hatred for the human, but with something else. Something that sounded almost like respect. High in the royal box, Emperor Thalros leaned forward. His eyes were wide with something Lyris had never seen before. Interest. Real, genuine interest. Remarkable, the Emperor said softly. Truly remarkable. Lyris wasn't listening. She was already running out of the box, pushing through guards and servants. Rushing down the stairs to the arena floor, she reached Doyon just as he collapsed. She caught him in her arms. His blood soaked into her royal robes. She didn't care. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. Doyon looked up at her. His vision was fading. Everything hurt. But for the first time in years, he felt something other than emptiness.
I told you,
He said weakly. I don't lose. Then everything went black. When he awoke, 3 days had passed. He was in a soft bed in the palace medical wing. Hannah was beside him, checking his bandages. Suho was sleeping in a chair nearby. Welcome back, Hannah said, smiling. You almost died. Again, how bad? 17 cuts. For broken ribs. Severe blood loss. Nerve damage in your left hand from catching that sword like an idiot. The poison is finally out of your system. She shook her head. Any normal person would have died 10 times over. Doyan looked at his bandaged hand. He could barely feel his fingers, but they would heal. Everything healed eventually. Where's Lyris? The princess has been busy. The whole empire is talking about what happened. A human defeated a Velen lord in the arena of Ascension. You're famous now. Famous. He had never wanted to be famous. And Maver. Disgraced. His plot to poison you came out after the fight. Several of his servants talked. He's been stripped of his titles and sent into exile. He won't bother anyone again. Doyan closed his eyes. It was over. The contract was complete. Lyris was safe. He could leave now. Go back to his old life. Find another job, another battle, another reason to wake up in the morning. But somehow, that thought didn't feel as good as it used to. The door opened. Lyris walked in. She was wearing simple clothes, not royal robes. She looked tired but relieved. She sat on the edge of his bed and looked at him for a long moment. Thank you, she said. Thank you for everything. I was just doing my job. No, you did more than that. You saved me. Not just from Maver, from a life I didn't choose. I'll never forget that. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. So what happens now? Doyan asked. Lyris smiled sadly. Now we figure out what comes next. The rite is fulfilled. You're free. You can go whenever you want. Free. The word felt strange. He had been a prisoner of duty his whole life. A soldier. A mercenary. Always belonging to someone else's cause. Now he belonged to no one. So why did that feel so lonely? A week passed. Doyan's wounds healed slowly. He spent most of his time in the palace gardens, watching the silver ocean and thinking about his future. The last dawn was repaired and ready to fly. Suho and Hannah were waiting for his orders. But he couldn't bring himself to give them. Something was keeping him here. Something he didn't want to name. One morning, a servant came to his room with a message. Emperor Thalros wanted to see him, alone. Doyan followed the servant through the palace to the emperor's private chambers. The room was smaller than he expected. Simple furniture. Plain walls. The most powerful man in the Velen Empire lived like a monk. Thalros sat by a window, looking out at his kingdom. He was old, older than Doyan had realized. Silver hair fell past his shoulders. Deep lines marked his face, but his violet eyes were sharp and intelligent. Sit, the emperor said. It wasn't a request. Doyan sat in the chair across from him. You fought well in the arena, Thalros began. Better than I expected? I've seen many warriors in my lifetime, champions, legends. None of them could do what you did. I was lucky. No, luck had nothing to do with it. I've studied humans for many years. I know what you are. Persistence hunters, your scientists call you. Your ancestors used to chase animals across plains until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. You're not built to win quickly. You're built to win eventually. The Emperor smiled thinly. That's a dangerous quality. Is there a point to this conversation? Thalros chuckled. Direct. I like that. Yes, there is a point. I want to offer you something. Waved his hand, and a hologram appeared between them. Numbers glowed in the air. Very large numbers.